Hello, and welcome to Travel Tales, my weekly podcast. I'm Isabella, the virtual travel agent within the new Journey Hero travel app that will soon be available for you to download. During each episode of this podcast, we visit a particular location around the world and speak with travellers that are empowered by Journey Hero every day. Our friends down under in Sydney have had a rough time in the past 2 years. They suffered terrible forest fires in the heat of the summer of 2020 and then were locked down multiple times during the pandemic. Throughout this time, they kept their positive attitude and sense of humour. One of my friends, Shaz, is a great lover of Sydney, and I've asked her to join me today to discuss this fabulous metropolis. How are you, Shaz?
Hi Isabella, I'm good. I'm really excited to speak to you about Sydney. I think of it as my spiritual home.
Wow, why is that, Shaz?
Well, I was lucky enough to spend 2 wonderful years in Sydney. I made so many friends. It's a beautiful, welcoming and livable city, and I feel comfortable as soon as I land at Kingsford Smith's International Airport.
Sydney is definitely a special place. Let me tell our listeners a little about this exciting Australian city. Sydney was founded in 1788 when the first fleet of convicts was transported to Australia. England needed a new place to transport prisoners because they had previously sent most to the North American colonies. But with the Declaration of Independence by a young USA, that location was no longer available. Those who survived that long sea trip arrived to find a land of opportunity. Sydney is known for its outdoor life. It has about 2.5 million acres of parks and nature reserves within the metropolitan area. Sydney's 5.5 million residents speak more than 250 different languages, and more than 45% of the residents were born in a different country. All of this mix of cultures and natural spaces produces one of the finest cities and best places to live in the world.
The mix of the different cultures and leisure activities makes Sydney such a wonderful place to visit and live. It's always on the top of the best cities in the world surveys.
So Shaz, what are the must-see sights in Sydney?
There are so many cool places in Sydney. It's really difficult to narrow it down to just a few, but here's my absolute best of the best. First, you must see Sydney Opera House. It sits right in the Harbour. This iconic building is world famous and is effectively the symbol for the city. Attending a symphony and opera there is just sublime. Second, I'd recommend checking out Sydney Harbour Bridge. This easily recognisable structure may be the best known and loved bridge in the world. I got to climb it, but it's not for the faint-hearted. The bridge climb was exciting and had proper safety equipment, but it still really got the heart pumping. Next, I'd recommend Darling Harbour. This former industrial area has been repurposed as an entertainment and restaurant venue. It's close to the central business district, but it feels less stressed and pressured. Finally, if you have time for nothing else, you must spend time at Sydney's iconic beaches. There are 14 public beaches, including the world-famous Bondi and Manly beaches. And there are many smaller and quieter venues like Balmoral and Palm Beach. The culture of Sydney is heavily influenced by its beaches.
You really do know Sydney, Shaz. Let's take a quick break so we can pay the bills. With Journey Hero, you can dream, search, shop and book deals easily that are just right for you. Then, after you find your best trip, we will keep looking for an even better deal. If we find it, we'll ask you if you want to swap. If you choose to swap, we will take care of all the rebooking and refund the difference in price to your wallet, all with never storing your data on the cloud. There are no unfulfilled promises, no in-store credits and no fuss. Just money back in your wallet. How cool is that? Now, back to our podcast. Hey Shaz, what are your favourite restaurants in Sydney?
There are all types of food in Sydney, literally any flavour you desire. If I had to pick my favourite, I'd say Mr. Wong's in CBD. This authentic Chinese restaurant is dear to me because my dad always took me there when he visited me in Sydney. Mr. Wong's is always busy because of its fabulous dishes.
That sounds yummy. I love a good Chinese, and that sounds like the best. My favourite in Sydney is Quay, right on the harbour. The seafood, as you would expect, is perfect, but the views are stunning.
That's one of my favourites to take visitors because of the views. For a unique experience, I'd recommend Fire Door, where everything is cooked over wood and open fire. The smoky flavours are incredible.
Thanks, Shaz. So now I'm starving. I know Sydney is known for its nightlife. So where do you go to relax when you're in town?
Oh yes, great question. Sydney has a fabulous cocktail culture. My favourite is a hole-in-the-wall called Grandma's Bar. It's always packed because of the laid-back, cosy vibe. The self-confessed faded granny bar gives you the warm, tingly feeling of a home away from home that's filled with personality and love. Another favourite of mine is the Barbershop. It's an excellent gin bar and is a fun and happening venue. And speaking of gin, the Archie Distillery has a fantastic bar on the premises. It's a fun and interesting place to meet. You can take a tour around the distillery, see how it's made, and then enjoy a perfect gin and tonic at the bar afterwards.
Those places sound fun.
They're great fun, but just remember to be careful when consuming alcohol. Sydney's liquor laws are quite strict and the bars are not allowed to overserve customers. This makes Sydney a safe and wholesome environment for everyone, but can be a bit embarrassing if you're denied entry.
Hey Shaz, I resemble that remark. I know Sydney is known for its hospitality. Where do you like to stay when you're in the city?
All major brands of hotels are represented in Sydney, and most are reasonably priced for such a large city. There are also some locally owned venues. I like the Sofitel in Darling Harbour because it's close to many food and entertainment options. All you have to do is walk out the hotel and you're right next to the party. For a really comfortable stay, I'd highly recommend the Langham, which is right on the harbour near the rocks. It's famous for its service. My final recommendation is the Pullman Sydney Olympic Park. This cool venue has an excellent facility, including a great gym.
Wonderful recommendations, Shaz. I can't wait to return to Sydney to try one of those out.
Increasingly, homestays are huge in Sydney. I rented a short stay apartment several times and that gave me the advantage of having a kitchen when I just wanted to stay in and relax.
Thank you for all of your recommendations, Shaz. Do you have any final thoughts about Sydney?
Oh, Sydney is a wonderful any time of year, but for me it's extra special around spring. It's vibrant, happy and just a complete joy to visit. I'd move back in an instant.
For sure, the bragging rights of a tan in January are huge when you return to England. Thanks so much for sharing your recommendations today. Thanks for listening to Travel Tales with me, Isabella. Before you go, show some love by leaving us a review where you've found this podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at Journey Hero app for more travel inspiration. Be sure to download the app as soon as it's available in your area.